Why Microsoft's $80 billion Xbox bet backfired. Imagine a massive tech company spending more than 80 billion US dollars acquiring some of the biggest game studios in the world, all in service of one big vision, changing the way people play video games forever, shifting from buying games one at a time to subscribing the way you would to Netflix. This is Microsoft's big bet with Xbox Game Pass. For years, Microsoft struggled to compete directly with Sony's PlayStation and Nintendo's consoles in the hardware market. Instead of continuing to fight on a battlefield they were already losing, Microsoft decided to shift the entire direction of its business strategy. But this big bet ended up creating problems far more complicated than anyone anticipated. In this video, we're breaking down how Microsoft's ambitious vision played out, and why a strategy that sounded so revolutionary ended up creating serious financial challenges for its gaming division. To understand why Microsoft took such a drastic turn, we need to understand where they stood in the console gaming market for years. Xbox consoles were often sold at a loss, a common practice in the console industry where companies sell hardware below production cost, hoping to profit from game and accessory sales afterward. The problem was, Xbox also kept trailing behind its main competitor, especially PlayStation, in unit sales and market share. Facing this situation, Microsoft made a fairly bold strategic decision in 2017, launching Xbox Game Pass, a subscription service inspired by Netflix's business model, at an initial price of $9.99 per month. The idea behind this strategy was actually quite elegant. Instead of continuing to fight tooth and nail to win the console hardware battle, a battle they'd already been losing for years, Microsoft chose to build a recurring revenue stream through a subscription model. With this approach, Microsoft's success no longer depended entirely on how many Xbox consoles it sold, but on how many customers stayed loyal to their monthly subscription. To strengthen Game Pass's appeal, Microsoft made a highly significant decision. Every game made by its own internal studios, known as first-party games, would be available on Game Pass the very same day it launched. This was a fairly radical decision compared to the traditional game business model. Normally, big games are sold at full price first and only make their way into subscription services after some time has passed. But Microsoft chose the opposite approach, giving immediate access to its newest games from day one of launch, as part of a monthly subscription far cheaper than buying games individually. The belief behind this strategy was based on a pattern already proven successful in other industries, similar to Netflix for movies and shows, or Spotify for music. Microsoft believed that if it could rapidly grow its subscriber base, it would eventually create a dominant, highly profitable ecosystem in the long run, even if that meant sacrificing some direct game sale revenue in the short term. Then came the COVID-19 pandemic, a period that significantly accelerated Game Pass adoption. Subscriber numbers surged past 15 million, as many people looked for entertainment at home during lockdowns. This momentum pushed Microsoft to become even more aggressive in acquiring blockbuster franchises, aiming to strengthen Game Pass's appeal even further. They acquired major names across the gaming industry: Call of Duty, Fallout, Doom, World of Warcraft, and even Candy Crush, an extremely broad portfolio, spanning multiple genres and massive fan bases. This large-scale acquisition strategy reflected Microsoft's belief that the more exclusive, high-quality content available on Game Pass, the stronger the service's appeal would be in attracting and retaining subscribers over the long term. After completing its acquisition of Activision Blizzard, one of the largest deals in video game industry history, Microsoft took a highly anticipated step, launching Call of Duty: Black Ops 6 directly on Game Pass on its release day. In terms of new signups, this move set a record for Game Pass. Call of Duty is one of the most popular game franchises in the world, and offering it directly through the subscription service from day one drove a massive wave of new subscribers eager to try it out. But behind this impressive sign-up record, many industry analysts raised concerns about the economics behind this decision. Their argument was fairly simple, yet sharp. By putting a game as massive as Call of Duty directly on Game Pass from day one, Microsoft was effectively sacrificing billions of dollars in potential full-price game sale revenue in order to drive subscriber growth. The big question was, Was this subscriber growth actually profitable enough to make up for losing that much direct sales revenue? To improve profitability, Microsoft took a fairly drastic step, raising the price of Game Pass Ultimate from $19.99 to $29.99 per month, a 50% increase all at once. A price increase of this size was clearly no small move, and the result turned out to be quite painful. This move caused Microsoft to lose millions of subscribers who felt the new price no longer matched the value they were getting. This large-scale subscriber loss ultimately forced the company to revise its pricing strategy later on. This is an important reminder that in subscription-based businesses, an overly aggressive price increase can quickly backfire, especially when customers have plenty of other entertainment alternatives to choose from. The Xbox division eventually faced financial pressure, coming from multiple directions at once, painting a fairly concerning picture. Gaming revenue declined for 3 consecutive quarters. Hardware costs kept rising, squeezing profit margins even further. Game Pass subscriber numbers themselves fell well short of Microsoft's original projection, which had targeted 77 million subscribers. Perhaps most concerning of all was Microsoft's gaming division operating margin, which sat at only around 3%, an extremely thin figure for a business division of this size. The combination of all this pressure eventually forced Microsoft into some unpleasant moves: employee layoffs, the closure of several game studios, and leadership changes across the gaming division. Industry analysts noted something fairly interesting about this situation. While the gaming industry as a whole did slow down after the pandemic ended, the problems Microsoft faced were actually fairly unique and different from its competitors. The reason is simple. Microsoft tied the future of its gaming business so tightly to the Game Pass subscription model. Unlike competitors such as Sony or Nintendo, which still rely on the traditional game sales model as the backbone of their business, Xbox leaned extremely heavily on Game Pass as its core business strategy. This heavy dependence on a single business model meant that when that model faced challenges, like a price increase the market didn't accept, or questionable day-one release economics, the impact was felt far more heavily by Microsoft than by competitors with a more balanced, diversified business model. Interestingly, Microsoft appears to have recognized this problem and started taking steps to reverse its strategic direction. They lowered the price of Game Pass Ultimate back down, trying to fix the balance between price and the value offered to customers. They also ended the practice of releasing the next Call of Duty game directly on Game Pass from day one, an indirect acknowledgement that the day one release strategy for a franchise this massive genuinely needed to be reevaluated. Going forward, Microsoft appears set to focus more on growth through the major franchises it already owns, while strengthening partnerships with independent game developers. The company itself has stated that Game Pass has started growing again, after several months of fairly significant decline. So what's the big lesson we can take from Xbox Game Pass's journey? Microsoft's vision of turning the gaming industry into a subscription-based model wasn't actually a bad idea. Similar models have proven successful in the music and film industries. But turning an entire division's core business strategy into something fully dependent on a single business model turned out to carry far greater risk than perhaps anyone anticipated. When Microsoft put major games directly on Game Pass from day one, they were essentially trading guaranteed, immediate revenue for a long-term bet on subscriber growth. That bet needed massive scale to actually pay off. And when subscriber growth projections weren't met, while tens of billions of dollars in content acquisition costs had already been spent up front, this financial gap became very hard to ignore. This story teaches us that large-scale business model transformation, however revolutionary and full of potential it looks on paper, still requires very careful execution, especially when it comes to balancing long-term customer growth with short-term financial health. And most importantly, over-reliance on a single strategy, no matter how promising it seems at first, can create significant concentration risk when that strategy runs into unexpected challenges. If you enjoy tech business case studies like this, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss other case studies on global business successes and failures. See you in the next video.